Hello there, and welcome back to our second tutorial on doing rocks. Let me transition, and perfect. So in our last tutorial we covered on how to do rocks, how to make rock base meshes from two different aspects, from using 3ds Max and using Zbrush as well. Now we're going to begin with detailing both of the rocks in ZBrush. Um, there is another way that you could do this, but I kind of figured it'll probably be more time consuming um, than it would be. So we'll just go with the ZBrush route for both, and we'll start off with this guy. So let me put my mouse on the other side. So looking at our rock right here, um, that we made in Max, if I go into my polyframe, or what's displayed here is draw polyframe, so I can press Shift F. You can see the wireframe. Now if I now it's only showing it gray because we haven't specified yet as different polygroups yet. So let's do that right now. So I'm going to go over to my subtool palette, my nice fancy subtool palette, and I'm going to go all the way down right below um, visibility. There's polygroups. So I'm going to press auto groups. Now what auto groups does is it divides our mesh into two different colors. Now it uses an RGB system to figure out what is what um, between the two meshes, and treats them as separate elements, quite similar to 3ds Max. And I can press Control Shift and actually isolate them. And I can do the same thing up at the top too, as well. And I get the choice to separate them as um, two different subtools. But we're not going to do that. Instead, we're going to go and dynamesh them. Um, so over, just right above ZBrush right here is dynamesh. So first thing that you want to do before you press the big obnoxious button right here is you want to press polish and make sure that you have a low dynamesh resolution. You want to start off with, and also keep multi-groups dynamesh. It means that it'll keep the polygroups the way they are. And then after that, I can increase my resolution. So I'm going to go with um, 120. And then I'm going to press dynamesh. Now already, it has already merged our subtools together. And if I go into polyframe, it kept our polygroups when we've dynamashed. Actually, it didn't weld them. Let's try this again. Okay, there we go. Now it's actually welded them. That's what I want. There. That's actually interesting to know what multi-groups dynamesh does. So we just discovered that this button still keeps them as two different elements. But all I wanted to do was just merge them because they're going to be part of the mesh anyways. Now anyways, we are still going to need our reference from earlier that we've used back in our first part of the video. So I'm going to grab our first rock formation video. So the picture of it. And now when I added to Spotlight, it dragged down our reference down at the bottom that you see right around here, and it maximized our reference. So I'm going to go and scale down by just going into the tool palette, scaling it down, and just moving it over here. And then I'll do the same with the other one. Move it to the other side. Okay. So now we have our mesh. It's perfect the way we want. Now let's start sculpting. The first thing we want to do is we want to start by going from the side of our model and actually bring out a few brushes. BNV, BNE, BCT, BCB, BTB. So what I'm doing here is I'm bringing out all of the brushes that we've mostly used in the previous video. And this is, by the way, is a new Zbrush document since I had to restart my computer earlier. So I'm gonna go and select, you know what, the move brush is much better, not the play tools brush. So I'm gonna use BME move elastic or the move brush, or the regular move brush is fine. I'm gonna increase my draw size, and I'm just going to stretch this out. I'm going to move my model up, and I'm going to hold down Shift to reposition it. And I'm just going to do is I'm going to use the Move Elastic brush to change a few things. So now it's looking more like the rock that we want. Okay. Now let's continue with the next part. Now this part. Now the reason why we separate this as a different polygroup is that I can go and isolate this. Okay. And then I can go and select my stroke to be a lasso, and then I can just marquee select it, and then I can hold down Shift and move it from the Move Elastic brush just a bit, just a tad bit, not too much, and I'll do the same on the other side too. I'll bring this down. And then I could just bring this back up. And I'm going to bring this down. I'll do the same thing again with these guys. And then what I can do is I can just mask this out, and then I can use the drag react to just mask this out. and I can go into and invert my mask, and then I can go over to deformation and use flatten to flatten this out. Why? I'm gonna press Control Z to reset. That's much better. So what I did was I just planar map it or just flatten this out because I want these polygons to be flat because it's a hard surface. It's a rock. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Control and then I'm going to Dynamesh. So what you're doing is you're finalizing a bit of the shape before you start moving on with detailing. The same principles as doing characters. So I can just mess this up. You know what? I could just use a box alpha. So regardless of what brush or if you go and mask something out, you can use any alphas or textures that you want to mask it out by. So I'm gonna go mask this out. I'm gonna go Control Z and just do this. And what I can do is I can hit Control I, and then I can just drag this out using the transform tool. I can just bring this out a bit. Then I can hit Control to match this up. Again, Control Z and just set this back. I'm going to increase my draw size and then just fill this up. So I'm going to go ahead and Control I, and then I'm going to start by bringing this out like what we did before. And I can just mask this out. Hit Control I, and I can just do the same thing over here as well. Just move this up a bit. So there's a bit of extruding involved. Alright, and now let's start some sculpting. So I'm going to grab the clay buildup brush, and I'm going to use our alpha. I'm going to go into the alpha tab, and I'm going to go over to the modify tab and increase the radial fade just about at around 2 or 3, so we can get like a bevel effect with that cube. So we can get like a cube brush, not a sharp box alpha. Because that's how I dig it. So I'm gonna go with auto masking and press backface masking. Okay. Alright. So I'm gonna bring this down. I'm gonna rotate this. And I'm going to decrease our Z intensity to about like 10 or 12. And then I'm just going to do is and then I'm going to start by letting this out and start. It's okay to go back in and just take away some areas like this. So that's what I'm going to do. So pretty much at this point, you're basically treating your model like an actual clay sculpt. That's actually the beauty of Zbrush, is that you can get away with the most absurd, shape, and you can create something stellar. And that's what I like about it. And then I'm gonna hit Control. And then I can do the same up at the top. But this time I can just use Control, and then I could just marquee select around this area. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. And hit Control I, and then start by using the transpose tool, and then bringing this up a bit. And I'm going to turn on backface masking, and I'm going to add in a little bit more, and I'm going to increase our Z intensity to about 27 to 40, so about around 33. I can quickly just go over and just add kind of like that slope that we're kind of getting. As you see right here. So I'm going to bring this down here so we can see it clearly. And I can do the same thing up at the top. I'm doing the best of my ability to replicate the reference. Rock. And I can do the same thing. Just adding a bit more. And I'm just doing the same on the other side. Yeah. Perfect. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Control, Mask. Now it's looking more alive. Now I can go over around here and use the trim dynamic brush. What I can do is bring some of these shapes out. I can switch my stroke. Just do a series of extrusions. Control I. I can do this the same thing over here as well. Bring that out. Oh. Control I. And do the same thing again. And then I could do the same thing with this area right here. And then what I could do is press Control I, and then I could just hold down Shift, switch sides to, I think, the back side, or the, yeah. Or I could just reset the pivot over here, and then, or the transform tool over here, and then do this. And what I can do is, after that, is I can just redynamesh this. Right. So now when that's done, I could go and use the trim dynamic brush, and then I can switch to the box alpha, and then just do this. And then I can do the same thing over here. And then I can go over here, bring this up a bit. And I can hit Control and mask this out. And then I can just do kind of like a big mask over here. Pull this up a bit. And then just hit Control I, hold Shift, and then do the same thing again. hold down spacebar and readjust my Z intensity. And then I can just start sculpting around here. And I can start carving in some of the areas around here, and a bit around here. So what you're doing is you're constantly adjusting your draw size, just sculpting around, hitting areas, and making. That's the key thing of making things look stellar as an environment artist. You want to try to maintain that. Try to keep a certain flow within your silhouette. So we see in our reference, so I'm going to scale this down and move this to the side. We got like a few areas where it kind of just goes deep into the crevice of the rock, and then we also have areas that kind of go inward. So right now what we're kind of doing is we're kind of like breaking things apart before we make our alpha, because what you're generally doing after you've made the base mesh and made a few adjustments within Zbrush to make it start look like the actual rock, you would have to go back into it to actually add in some areas, like block out like some areas of the rock, and then once we're done with that, we can start making an alpha for it and start finishing it off. So that's what I'm going to do. And then just to speed things up, I'm going to increase my Z intensity to 49 for play tubes. You can also increase it to 70 as well. Just dig deep. And just do something like this too as well. And then in some areas, you can just use the trim dynamic brush and just sculpt around those areas. So from what I've watched and from what my professors have taught me is you want to try to quickly get a rock done, because it's only like one asset. It's about like going back and forth and pretty much just using a few brushes, like for example the trim dynamic brush, which I'm doing. You kind of see me now making this more and more into a rock, and that's what I'm doing. So that's what you guys want to achieve over time, is actually make this into a rock. So let's check this out. It's looking pretty good. And now you also want to go in and just mask this out. because we can't just marquee select this area, because it would also affect all the work we did, especially like around here. So you want to go and do like we did before. And we're going to use the transpose tool just to bring this out. And just start breaking the living crap out of this rock. That's what you want to do. And just use the clay buildup just to, and make sure you still keep back face masking, or otherwise it'll affect the other side too. And then now I'm going to mask this up. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Just to get rid of like, some of this. Make this a bit more organic. And now I will be right back. Alright. Let me readjust that. Good. 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 Alright. Alright. So now we're back. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to use another brush called the snake hook brush, from what I showed from the previous video. My personal favorite. And then just stretch this out. And then you want to use the move brush just to bring this back. Just reshape this out. And then what we want to do is we want to use the yeah, let's use clay buildup. But I want to use the drag react and just bring smash up and just bring our button myself out of it. And then we want to overlay it. So I'm going to increase your Dynamesh resolution a bit to 250. And then we're going to start Dynameshing this. And now it's at almost at 250,000. And all we want to do is we want to go over this, start, and then just switch to freehand. Now I'm going to switch back our Z intensity to the 15 to 40 range. So I'm going to go for good 22. Let's start by going around our mesh, around this area, and start hammering stuff down. And what we want to do is we want to increase our draw size and increase our Z intensity to 64, because we want to start doing this. And then just do kind of like a light stroke. And then just continue looking at our reference until it starts looking more like a rock shape. You could also do the same thing up around here too. And then re-Dynamesh. I'm going to use the trim dynamic brush. Start using trim dynamic brush. And then start and go around here. I'm going to go do something over here and up there, so we can block some stuff out. The next brush I want to show is the standard brushes. So what I did was I'm using the damn standard brush. So the keyboard shortcut for that is BDS. So I can switch my alphas, and I can also, you also want to be careful when using your draw size too. Because if you have like a big draw size, it'll just F everything up. So what you want to do is you want to keep it small. And you want to smooth things out. Bring this out. Now it starts to look more like a rock. And then you want to go over here, because now we're starting to get the picture of our silhouette around here. And do something down here and over here and over there and also over here as well. Then I could also use that same brush to give me back some detail too in the damn standard brush. I could also make it subtle too, but around 5. And I could use the brush. I can go back and forth. And do the same thing around here and over there. So let's go to the other areas as well of our rock too. Especially this area here. So what I want to do is, like I did earlier, I'm going to mask out this area. So what we're doing is constantly masking some areas out, and then from what we kind of did, we're actually going to be using the clay buildup to add detail around here. That's another way to quickly just bring out some rocks. Readjusting draw size. I can also just cut this out. And do something over here. And then I'm going to clear my mask and hit Control. And then what I can do is I can quickly go over this with Trim Dynamic. So you want to try to get this done without sacrificing too much detail. So, and also, what also occurred to me as well is I can go and increase my draw size, and I'm just holding Alt with Trim Dynamic and bringing some of that detail back. So it looks more like a rock. I'm going to do that. Put on perspective 1. And at this point on, we might as well start dividing our mesh into like different polygroups. So, or I could just mask this out and just work on it from there. But let's make our lives easier and actually mask this out. So, using the masking, if you want to mask this out and make it into a new polygroup, you go into polygroups down here, and then you press group mask polygons, and it'll create another polygroup. So that's what you want to do. So now that we've created a new polygroup, let's go and fix up these areas right here. So where are my materials that I need? There we go. And that pretty much at this point, you could either, once again, listen to some music while you're working. That's always great. And then pretty much from here, I could just go and use the clay tubes brush and just break down like some shape and give some form around these areas. That's what I can do. What also helps is using the clay buildup, and then when turning off back face masking, I just go in and just start digging deep into the mesh. Trying not to make this too complicated. I'm going to go over and do the same thing down here. And just do the same thing here. Just do something right here. I could start by doing And then do the same thing. And then going around and just sculpt around the rocks. Start breaking some rocks apart. Start doing that. Some areas around here. Wonder what the rig brush would do. BR. So the rig brushes is that I can use either box alpha or this pre-alpha. That's the effect. I'm going to switch it to a box alpha and start adding some crazy things to this. So I'm going to do a bit of this. And then with the rake brush, I can do a lot of breaking these forms apart too. And in these areas, I can just go in, sculpt, make it look like there's like some natural erosion. And then we look at the polyframe, it looks pretty nice. And then we can do the same thing down here as well. So we can do a bit of this. And then I can increase my draw size and then bring my Z intensity down a bit to 28 and start smoothing this out. Same thing up at the top too. And then up at the top, we can just quickly just go over with the rake brush. We could just mix things up with the clay buildup, and then start to go around in some areas, especially here. Add a little bit over there. Quickly projecting it and dynameshing. And now what I want to do is I want to go into trim dynamic and then start by bashing through some of these areas. Once again, and then doing the same thing again with the damn standard brush. decreasing my jaw size, and then that should be at a 22. Much better. And then just bashing this through, cutting through some areas. Doing the same over here and down there. And that's what I'm going to do. And switching back to my trim dynamic brush and doing this again. And then using dim standard to do this. Oops, too big. There we go. Smooth this down a bit. And start by pushing some details out. And then going around here. And using dim standard. Oh god. So now I'm going to have to bring this down to 8. And now I'm going to have to bring this down to 15 and then start doing some business. So now I'm going to have to breaking stuff down, breaking some shapes. Let's do this right here. I think that should do. I'm going to increase my jaw size and then just shape this out a bit. And then from the other side, I'm going to start by using the PCB, using clay buildup, or I can use move elastic. I'm getting this out a bit. Do something up here, and a bit up here. B. Set 2. Alright. And then I'm going to smooth this out. I'm going to dynamite it again. Dynamashing. Trying to avoid. Bring the jaw size down. So I'm going to switch back to my dam standard brush. And I'm going to bring this back to about 13. And I'm going to start by just doing this. And I'm going to go over with a high polish brush. And start by there. And here. And here. And here. I'm going to switch to clay buildup, and I'm just going to continue on with this. I'm going to use the high polish brush and flatten this out. Do the same thing down at the bottom for these guys. there. Pretty much what I'm going to do after that. And then to finish things off, I'm going to use the Trim Dynamic brush. And do the same thing at the top. And then pretty much after that, I'll just go over it and polish it up with the high polish brush. So I'm going to switch to my high polish brush, and then with a low Z intensity, I would recommend it as low as 2 or 3. And then just go around these areas. And just do the same thing over here, and over here. Do the same thing over here, and over here. And then over here, what I can do, down at the bottom, put back this masking on, and then start going to town a bit. You can go and switch to clay buildup, but in a low Z intensity, about like 20. And start going into areas, especially this area, and then keep sculpting around these areas, and lower your draw size again. Let's go and buff this guy up right here. And then turning off backface, and then turning it back on, and then boosting it up. So what I did over here was I just boosted, I just added some form and just some volume around these areas. I could do the same thing right here. just boost up these areas around here. And just smooth out these areas here. And then start by going around areas. So I'm going to go back around this area and then just pump this up like we did with the clay, like we did with the clay build-up brush. And what I'm going to do is, and also around this area too. No. Alright, perfect. And then back over the damn standard brush. Oops. I meant to do this. And then so it's all about like polishing and everything, and that's it. Just go over with the trim dynamic brush, and then that's pretty much it. Alright. finally, we're going to smooth this out. And we're done. Oh. That's about it. And that's about it. Alright. Okay. And then what you want to do is you want to save this. So that's what I'm going to do. Rex, rock tutorial. Okay. So I've just decided that I am going to do one video per rock. So this is now considered part 2, which is rock 1. So this is the max 3ds Max rock that we did. The next part will be the Zbrush rock that we did. And then the third part will be making our toggle texture, adding alphas to both our rocks as quickly as possible, and then pretty much after that it's just making a little polys, and then that's it. Bringing them into Unreal, and that's about it. So I thank you for watching part 2, and I will see you later for part 3. Just to avoid to keep this, I don't want to keep this as long, so pretty much a good hour and 15-minute video is pretty much long enough for this part. So that's what I've decided instead of 3-part video. Alright, so I'll see you in the next video when we do our other rock.